the XRP buyback is real. Ripple has been a buyer of XRP in the secondary market, and they are looking at the ODL because it's gonna grow. They just changed their website, and if you come onto the website, you'll actually understand that they just changed it. And as you zoom out, you get the idea of what's happening there. Now it's the XRP, it's the dollar, but before it, you had all these, right? You had Bitcoin, you had Litecoin, you had Ether and others, but now when you zoom in, you only have these two. So we'll have to see how things are going to evolve, but the Q1 report gives us all the information we want, how much market is actually growing and what's happening in and around us. Because Brad gives that detailed view here of a talk about the settlement this year, that's an optimistic view, and a possible crypto shakeout. When he was asked that question, he was responding, right? So the carnage will always be there. And then, if you remember this from Dilip Rao, and now you go look at the Ripple website, it's all lining up perfectly. If you are looking at this, you're like, okay, fine, they were about to do this. They did that correctly. Then they started doing the pilot programs, and after which the technology is understood to make benefits for those who are doing it. Now they are making all transactions using XRP. So that's big things coming on our way. Now, yes, that's fundamentals. A lot of people don't actually care about fundamentals when the price is not doing much, right? So right now you're looking at the price and you're asking the question, what will it really do? So it's going to bounce. It broke this support. It came down to this support. Now, most likely it's going to bounce. We may go up to 0.69, 0.7 territory and then get rejected and go back lower. Now, that's a possibility. Why? Because when you look at this, you're like, okay, this is the previous structure where you happen to bounce, but you go back here and then you come back down. So you have a scenario where the price can actually bounce to the upside and then come back lower. Now, you look at the support territories and you're like, okay, the support is standing still. We are kind of holding that support, but at the same time, you have like this is the resistance going down, and then this is the horizontal resistance. So at one junction, you right now has two resistance. We need to actually break through that. That is going to be a hard part too. Now you look at Bitcoin on the other side of this, and you're like, okay, fine. Bitcoin is actually trying to break through the trendline resistance of the falling wedge and the moving average. So if it breaks, that's actually a good news on the short term, because as you zoom out, that breakout is here. You're going to come, you're going to retest that breakout. That's a possibility, but then you're going to bounce. So that bounce is going to take you all the way to the upside. That is a possibility, 30% rise to the upside. Because when you compare this breakout and look at the RSI, you get the picture clear. The RSI has already broken to the upside, it's retested, it's bouncing. So if that continues in the price, that's actually a great stuff too, because on the macro, you do understand this breakout is going to take the price to the upside. Now, you look at Ether and you look at the Ether to the USD. Then you compare it with a lot of different assets, right? The question is like, okay, I understand. What does this actually mean to me? You really have to go to the Ether BTC chart, because that's one of the important stuff which I would share with you guys in a sense. Okay, if you are looking on a daily chart, you are range bound. You're moving inside this and you're trying to break through the moving average. So when you break that moving average, what happens? To get that, you take 2 steps back and like, okay, you're going to have a upside. You're going to move to the upside. So that possibility is still there. So the macro pattern is like this, where you're looking at this. Fine. Now you go on a macro, you go, monthly, weekly, whichever you want to choose, and you're like, okay, this market cycle is not over. This market cycle is not over. This is wave 1, wave 2. You have this wave structure, and right now it's just starting. You are having that rounded bottom pattern. This is Ether against Bitcoin, right? And you understand that Ether against Bitcoin, if it moves 40%, Ether against dollar most likely will move more than that, or at least till that amount. Now, you come to XRP BTC. That is painful. Yeah, you're close to the bottom. You're not moving up. But the other way of this is you are still close to the bottom. So if you're thinking about buy low, sell high, in dollar term, that also means we are close to the bottom, not to the upside. So if you are an investor, you look for downside versus your upside. So that's a huge idea there. Now, this is a coin to just show the trend change. You were trending down, 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 and then you happen to make a higher high. Now you're making this pattern which came up here and then broke higher and continued higher. So if that's happening, that's going to be a rounded bottom changing into a higher trend. So that uptrend. So this is kind of reiterated by the altcoin market, where the entire altcoin market actually shows you a falling wedge. Now, falling wedge usually break to the upside 65% of the time, and it's bullish. So on a macro monthly, when people think, okay, the market is down 60-70%. Yes, it is down. But from the bottom, it's already 300% up for XLM and 200% up for XRP, which didn't do much in this bull market, right? Because when you compare with others like Cardano, which went up 100x, you're 20x up even at this point in time. You dropped, your 50% drop. You have dropped massively. Now maybe 70% drop because the top was like $3. Right now you're at 0.77. Still you're 20x to the upside. So one side of that, there are a lot of people who are still in profit, and if they want to sell in profit and move to another asset, that's possible. Selling pressure can continue. But here, you don't have much people in huge profit, so they're not going to actually sell if you are an investor. Small guys, retailers, they will sell and move, but majority big guys, they are not. They're accumulating here. Why? That is the same idea which I gave you here using the XRP BTC chart, because it actually gives you that idea, right? We are close to the bottom. Most likely, it's the same for the USD pair too. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are doubling down at the current support level. This is a short-term support. Now, you may wick lower like this, but 2 times before that, you went back up. And the same territory, when you went above, you went back lower. So this particular point of price action is important for XRP. So if you look all the way from 2020, for last 2 years, that has been the case. Now, okay, fine. So you're zooming out, you're zooming out, you're zooming out. What do you actually see on a weekly, on a macro? Is this asset going up anyway? Or are we going to have a capitulation? Now, the capitulation, you can't actually neglect the possibility of a capitulation if you happen to break this support, right? But if you're moving back up with the current movement, and a lot of buyers are entering thinking this asset has a lot of fundamentals, and now it's getting to that point where Ripple themselves are loading the truck, they are buying it back, means they end up, now if they think like this asset is going to do bad, blah 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 in future, they won't do this. They already have a ton of XRP with their own wallets, they already own it. But when they are going to do this, there are different perspectives in this. You go to their old document here and you kind of get this picture here clear, right? They've been talking about this. They've been talking about how they are increasing. Novari, a new one coming on, the ODL, then Tranglo using this, and 40% of Asia's cross-border payments. You kind of get the real utility happening here. Now that's real stuff happening. Then you move on and you look at the same stuff and you're like, okay, the entire world, it's going to be actually moved from one side to another, and all of a sudden, stuff is going to change, because right now, back in 2021, it was 46 million of Americans who had crypto. But now you come on and look at how things are changing. XRP is being prepared to use in multiple different verticals. And when you go look at them, they are not just sitting aside. They go look at all these stuff. It's clear. They're working with different central governments, the central banks, the authorities. Now, if you want to get through that and read what's happening in between them, you go on, click on these one by one. Now, that's going to take a lot of time. And if you're an investor, you're going to take that time to understand what's all about, right? They look at the payments, they look at the system, and they are like, okay, the status quo, it's a pain in the ass, and things are changing for good. Right? Now they understand the technology, they go through, they talk about everything for payments, and now you go to the top. Okay, fine. That's on the other side. But if you come here, this is a great stuff again for XRP using multi-chain and all bridge. They are going on Avalanche, Phantom, Solana. Now, Solana is having some issues right now, but compared to Ether, these platforms are much, much better to build on. And then you have the XRP the XRP ledger. So the interoperability is actually building here, because new projects which are going to come on a wax phantom and all, some of them will become successful. And then, the payment flows, it's going to come. That's where positioning yourself as a payment gateway for the world matters. Then yes, the NFT space, you go in, type in Ripple and NFT, you're like, okay, how they are positioning themselves. Because now, all of a sudden, it's not the small thing. Different governments are expecting to go on heavy, and some of them are, taking crypto right now. Argentina's largest private bank is going for this, Bitcoin. And then you look at VanEck, they're actually coming out big on NFT because they think this is going to solve a lot of existing use cases. And it all come back to one point. In between, there will be a shakeout, there will be a carnage, that's for sure. Because the market is not going to reward you just for holding for a short period of time. Now, when we say short period of time, understand, 1 year, 2 year, it's not that long time horizon. For me, it can be, but for the big institutions, it's not. They contract with the money managers or the investors are 3 to 5 years a minimum. Then 5 to 8 years, 8 to 10 years. So they have a long time frame where they can actually move the price down, kick a lot of guys out and buy back at the bottom. Now, when I say this, a lot of confusion arises, but understand this. They put in sale, they add the pressure, the price goes down, then they buy first and slowly start removing their sale. So now what happens? When they sell, the supply comes into the market, so you have a supply at the higher price level. So the current price, when it's fetching for new supply, it has to go to the upside. That's how things work. So yeah, technical, it's a little bit weird, but when you get to the weeds of that and understand, okay, this is how the root structure works, that's all fine. You understand that this market is about to blow off. If you look at this on a macro, you're like, this is a cup and a handle pattern. Mostly based on history that breaks to the upside. And yes, you have a measured move of around 15-16x after that, which is crazy outcome, right? You can go to $30-32, but right now when the price is at 0.6, a lot of people are going to have hard issues to even digest that, right? So now let's dig deeper. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. Now, yeah, it's going longer, but you do need this information. If you look at this and how things are evolving, SEC, CFTC, they are having trouble. But when you read through this and how things are changing right now in front of you, you get a point like, okay, Congress is stepping in. What does that actually mean? Either this is going to move, exchanges are going to move for CFTC because they are going to be looked out as commodities. Now, is it just happening inside US? No. You look at around the globe and different nations are coming out with different opinions, but majority of them agree this is considered as commodities. You look at India, you look at other countries. So that portion is giving you a clarity of who's going to regulate this. And then you come on to this one. See, Michael actually tweeted this one out. Like, right now, they're doubling down. They're going on all transactions through XRP and all. It's using XRP for any cross-border payments. So if you remember, this guy, he was talking about this first. Introduce this technology to the banks. Let them use this technology. Get familiar with this. And once they're familiar with this, then what? They understand, okay, they are saving a lot of money compared to the status quo SWIFT system. Fine. Then, okay, just try this one. That's XRP's settlement system. They pilot that system and they're like, okay, this actually works. So if there is no regulatory uncertainty, I can use this. And then you come on to this one and you go. Now, that's why I told, like, once you read through this with the regulations and where they are working with and look at where it's already implemented, you get that idea. Okay, they are working with Tranglo on different sectors. So the market, money is moved from one market to another. They are talking about Australia towards Philippines. So that's one market. Then you already know towards Mexico. So that's another market. So all of this are going on at the same time when you have the SEC lawsuit on the other end of this, right? So Right now, yes, they are building on this. They are doubling down on this. Okay, let me take that directly. Okay, let me just come here. Say this one shows new customers like Novati who joined this one using ODL. So they are using it from Australia to Philippines. Then Triangle. So they are using the ODL and line of credit in the same region. Okay, so you actually get the players who are coming in with the game and making more transactions. So this is like Southeast Asia transaction grew by 10x in 2020. So automatically now the momentum is increasing. It's actually incredible, right? So with the regulatory clarity, if you are listening to this particular interview, you get that idea. Okay, right now XRP price is like the strong bottom. It's going down. It's at the bottom. Now, right now it's going down only because of the market. The entire market is going down. But one thing you have to keep in mind is with the clarity, what happens? It gets relisted on exchanges. Okay, if it gets relisted on the exchanges, when the market is going up or you get this clarity, what happens? A lot of people are going to come in to buy. So most of the other assets are already in the exchanges. They already have the ability to buy this one, whereas this is just going to be relisted and getting a lot more attention with the settlement of the case. And when these big guys are actually moving in as investments, this is going to take off. And that's one of the reasons why we actually look at the charts and say like, okay, macro, yes, you do have a lot of upside in this market. And micro, you are looking for some pain. And if you actually go onto the micro chart, say there is XRP, right? Okay, what do you actually look as base? The previous two bottoms which you had here, 0.52, can be acting as a bottom. Now, at the same time, you need to keep in mind, if we break above the moving average here, the situation changes because your resistance line is going to be like this. So if you are able to break through that, the situation again changes. But most likely, there is going to be a bit more pain in the market. You may push to the downside and then go higher. So a lot of people, when they ask this question of, how long again I have to hold this asset? Look at this. It's 25% already below its moving average. So now we are looking at the lowest point here and taking this, it's 45%. So you have more pain as we just talked. So if you're extending this, you're like, okay, there are some stuff. Now, okay, get more clarity. You are going on to say a weekly chart. So on a weekly chart of XRP, if you are able to look at this as the bottom wick, all of the previous times when you are coming to this region, buyers were entering and buying the stuff up. And that's why you're actually getting a symmetrical triangle here, right? You're going through and you're actually getting a symmetrical triangle. So if this triangle holds, you're not actually going any lower. But again, it comes back to the trend analysis, which we just talked, right? We are going to bounce and the bounce is going to get resisted and you're going to come back down. So maybe next try is when we are actually going to break this pattern. And even if we break this, we have immediate support at the bottom. So if you are a buyer, you would be looking to buy this asset at a time when it is lower than its moving average. Now, this is a 20-day moving average. To get more clarity, you can either turn this one off and go to the 100-day moving average. So your 100-day moving average, you are just close to this. And when you go on to a 200-day moving average, yes, it actually shows you the price can come close to that 0.5 mark when it's going to hit the 200-day moving average. Now, okay, fine. Keeping that in mind and looking at Bitcoin, if Bitcoin breaks this one higher, the scenario changes. The ability for all coins to move higher is again there. But on a weekly chart, Bitcoin will really need to move above 41,500 to give us an idea that, okay, it is actually going back up above the moving average to trend back higher to that 50,000 mark, 60,000 mark. Because you're going to have a lot of resistance in between. This range 50 is going to be 1 and then 65. But yeah, right now when the price is at below 40, it will be really hard for most to agree that the price is going to go back up because the market is talking about bear market, right? You get that idea from a lot of different sides saying, okay, this is a bear market, this is a bear market, this is a bear market. But for me, while looking at this particular chart, I don't think this is a bear market. I see like, okay, on a weekly, it went above the moving average. It came corrected back. Now, stay with me. This is just going to be short, but going to be the same. You corrected back onto the moving average and you're building that base. So if you're bouncing, that bounce is going to go up. So against BTC, Ether is going to bounce. So that's 30% of price momentum. So now you go back last time, say October, all the way up to December, what Ether did, right? You can directly go onto the Ether chart versus USD, and you are looking from last October to November, December time frame. So now you go look last October, you are like this. September, October, you're starting the rally, you're moving up. November, you topped off because that's the resistance there too, right? Fine. Now you got the idea. If the market is about to actually do that, now you're like, okay, how much would the market actually do when this is moving? Here it was 40% move to the upside when Ether BTC pair moved up. Now the next question comes like, okay, against USD it moved like 40-45%. So how much am I looking at in the base here? It's the same 45%. Close to that, right? So that means if you're going to get 30% move up here, you're going to get a 30% move in the Ether price in USD terms. Now the market moves kind of together. So to put that into perspective, you take from here, if you're able to break into that 30% move, where is Ether going? It's going to 3,800, which is again somewhat close to this area, and it also gives you one idea that you are making a higher high, you're making another higher high. Now with this, you're going to make another higher high. So the trend is slowly changing with higher highs, then higher low, again a higher low, then followed by that, most likely it's going to higher low. And if it breaks this trend, you're going higher. There's no doubt. And that's one of the reasons why I highlight this again. The altcoin market, it's showing you this pattern. Now, yes, you need to break this to the upside, and immediately before that happens, you may get a little bit of panic selling. Usually that happens in the market. You go back in the history, you look at history and ask like, okay, did it really happen before? Yeah, it did. You see, before we go up, you had this capitulation, a lot of weak hands going out from the market because it's too long of holding and a lot of pain. Now that's how the market actually works. You listen to any different investors who are successful long term, who have spent 10-20 years in this market, investing market, they all give you the same exact lesson. Now, if you want to put that lessons into different assets like we do and talk and show you the opportunities for a wide range of assets, because you come to this market and you look at this market, there are a lot of different assets moving up, down. There are a lot of them with a lot of utility, and some of them starting to break higher, some of them showing that pattern that we are going to start moving higher. That's opportunity if you see that, right? You look at what assets are down right now on a daily basis or a weekly basis, monthly, yearly, it's up to you, and it depends on what type of investor you are. But we do give the idea here in the Patreon. So if you want to get that idea, you're going to get all of these charts on a regular basis. This is start of the month, and if you want to enroll into this, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. Because here, you look at the short-term scenario. At the same time, you also zoom out and look at the macro scenario to understand, okay, how bad this can be in short term and what I'm expecting in the long term. So guys, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.